Well, hello, everybody in person. It's good to recognize a few faces from the previous session that we had. And I recognize a couple of people from online as well from a previous session we had. So welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Quint. I'm heading over sessions for all of startup, but this is such an important one. I figured I'd join you guys in person for this one and kind of talk about how to build your business model, which is a very important skill to have if you've never done one before. We also have Lisa joining us today. Lisa is our awesome entrepreneurial fanatic. She is such a good wealth of knowledge. And so I'm going to go over basics for those. And then she's going to talk about what you should do if you would like to actually make your solution a real product, which has happened from startup before. People have actually gone to make these things real products. So I think we're good in terms of time. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to check the chat. Oh, you have a fan, Lisa. Melissa Richardson.
Hi, Melissa.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everybody. My name is Quint, and we're going to talk about a couple things today. So first and foremost, we are going to talk about how to communicate your value proposition. This is something very important for any kind of business, is telling people why exactly they should buy into what you're selling. We're also going to talk about a couple different kinds of business models, and we're going to bring in Lisa to talk about how to start your own business and the one-page business. Let's get started. The first tool that we're going to give you guys is this kind of blank. And so if you want to write this down or take a note of this, this is a really powerful tool that when you're giving that 4-minute presentation, it's really easy to use this format to communicate your value proposition. So for blank, that have blank, we provide blank. New sentence, we make money, and then how you make money. And this is a really good format, again, when you just need to do a quick pitch and just tell people, hey, this is what this product does, this is what my company does. It's a really good tool for doing that. So looking at a couple of examples that we have, for people that listen to music, I think go ahead and get rid of that. For people that listen to music that have smartphones, we provide a music library and suggestions. We make money with ads and a premium ad-free subscription. So this is what Spotify would say if they were gonna go through this kind of system, how they would pitch their product. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How's it going? We're talking about product pitches. Another really good one is for Blackboard. We've all used Blackboard before. So for schools that have learning management system needs, or LMSs, we provide a platform to host educational content, and we make money by charging schools for our service. And so really quickly, you can get down to the bottom of how a business is operating, what they actually offer, why you might want to buy into it, and who it's for. So this is a really good template if you guys want to use that. There's also a couple different kinds of business models. And so when you're going through your ideation and you're determining what your solution wants to be, this is going to be really important to know what kind of business model you have. So the first and most obvious one is probably the direct business model. This is when you, the blue little building there, sells stuff directly to the consumer. So something like Chewy.com, where they have a bunch of stuff and they sell it directly to a consumer. That's a direct business model. That makes sense, hopefully. There's also a multi-sided business model. So you might be a company that takes in products from another company and then processes them somehow and then sells them away. That would be something like Spotify. They take the content from those producers and they take the songs and stuff and then they sell them to you as a consumer. Or you might be the company who's making the actual products and selling it to someone else who then sells it to a consumer. So there's kind of a couple different sides to a multi-sided business model. And then the last one we're going to talk about is a marketplace business model. The marketplace business model is for when you have a couple different companies and they all sell something to you, and then you go ahead and put that on a marketplace and you sell that. Of course, the biggest one right now is probably Amazon. That's the best example I can give of one of those, where Amazon kind of just lists all these different objects from someone, or all these different products, and then they offer a service where they will fulfill that product for that company. Is everybody clear on business models? Do we have any questions about those before we go on?
And just back to the value proposition.
Yeah, go for it.
I just wanted to say that that is and should be the foundation of your marketing.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's vitally important that you get it right. Because clients are looking at you and people that want to invest in you are looking at you. So okay.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. That is the number one thing. I'll get you in just a second. That is the number one thing when you're pitching yourself. That should be the first thing out of your mouth. That should be the message you stick with the entire time you're pitching. Go ahead.
Yeah, what a multi-sided business model This being an example of it, for example, I have a service that I sell to an institution or a company that's offering it to their students or employees.
Yeah, for sure. That's a multi-sided business model because there's business to business interaction. Most are going to be multi-sided to some degree just because we've gotten really good at like making connections with different businesses. And so, every single business has this little niche that they found. And so that's why it's very hard to become a marketplace, and it's also difficult to do everything for a direct line. So a lot of times you will end up having a multi-sided. Hello, welcome. It's good to see you. We're just talking about marketplaces.
Okay.
All right. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Lisa, and she's going to talk about if you actually want to make this into a real business. Take it away.
So white button is good, right? He told you he told you he was here because it's so important. It's because the old lady and technology, not so good. So before I came to SCAD, I worked with small business clients. And what I'm going to share with you today is the good, the bad, and the ugly, right, of going into business. I too had the entrepreneurial bug, so I'm going to share my stuff too. 25 years in banking and finance. So I specialize in women and minority-owned businesses with revenues under 1 million. So that's kind of my sweet spot. And, I figure most of you starting out would be there before you start to grow. So there are 10 common mistakes that people make when they're opening a business. I'm going to share some statistics with you. 20% of the businesses that were opened in 2019 closed before the 1-year mark. So 20%, right? That's pretty high. But in 2021, there were 5.4 million business applications. That means 5.4 million people out there decided they wanted to own their own business. So competition and not being able to sustain. All right, so my goal is to make sure I help you to stay past that 1-year point. And I'm gonna share things on, as Quint said, the business entities. There are different kinds. I'm gonna share some disadvantages and advantages for you guys. I'm also gonna go over some of the things that have happened to my clients and to myself. So I'm gonna share that experience with you. So first, business entities. Second, we're gonna talk about some things that you need to review before you open up. And then the last thing is a tool to help you start off on a strong foundation. All right, so there are several different kinds of business entities. There's actually about 10 of them, but I'm only gonna go over 4 today. So sole proprietorship, partnerships, limited liability, or LLC as we like to call them, the subchapter S, we call those S Corps, to make it easy for you. So let's look at sole proprietorships. Show of hands, how many of you made lemonade and sold it outside your home, or cut grass in the summer, or babysat? Well, guess what? You were sole proprietors. That's how you made money. It was 1-to-1, right? So about 70% of the businesses that are open today are sole proprietors. It's the easiest to open because you really have to do nothing. The control, it's you, right? You don't have to talk to anybody else. It's just me. I'm doing all the control. And then as far as taxes are concerned, it's like your income. So you're taxed at a personal tax level, okay? But there are some downsides, right? You're liable for everything. So if you ran over the toe of the kid that you were babysitting, all your assets are out there, hanging out there as being liable, right? You also want to make sure from, when I say financial risk, what this is telling you back to liability, but also if you incur any debts as a sole proprietor, you're responsible for those debts, right? There's nowhere to go. They're coming directly to you for it. And another part of it is, as your business grows, you want to make sure you take a look at funding. How do I get more money? Well, with this, banks are a little leery, not that they won't. They may give you a business credit card, right? but they're not going to lend you money that they'd lend to other entities, okay? And then the last thing about that is you can't sell stock if you're a sole proprietor, so it's just you. But it works for some people, right? Obviously, 70% are, that's the way it is in the US. So next one is partnerships. Again, this is where 2 or more people come together, and there are few regulations around it. You have flexibility in saying, okay, Ali, you're gonna take care of all the bookkeeping. I'm gonna take care of all the marketing. Wonderful flexibility there. And again, it gets passed through to your personal taxes. So you're not paying at a corporate rate. How many of us have loved and lost? Same thing with a partnership, right? So first business I opened on my own was a gym. And I went into it as a partnership and something else, and I'll explain that something else a little bit later to you. At that point in time, I had 15 years of banking. So it wasn't like I was a newbie, right? I did not have a partnership agreement. It is vitally important for you to have a partnership agreement where you iron out just about everything. What happens if I want to get out of the business and you don't? Do you buy me out? Can I sell it to somebody outside? You know, there are all these different things that happen. And so, again, team assignments. Who is doing team assignments now? I know one person specifically is doing team assignments now. Have any issues sometimes with same thing as a partnership, you know? So you really have to go into it with eyes wide open, okay? Okay, so I talked about the ugly side, but here is another ugly side. You become liable for anything your partner does. If they did something in the business, you're liable, right? And that's just straight partnerships. Financial risk, again, you're looking at, you divide the profits you get. Yes, you pass it through, but you still are within an area that you could potentially lose your personal assets. Okay, so this one is, I would say, the #1 opening of new businesses recently, because this wasn't around all the time. Limited liability company, or LLC, as we like to call them. So just as the name says, it helps to protect your personal assets, right? If, let's say, unfortunately, you have to declare bankruptcy for the business, that liability doesn't get passed on to you, okay? Which is a good thing. Owners are members. So one of the #1 mistakes I saw is when somebody was filing, and we'll get a little bit into how you do this, but they would call president, vice president. No, an LLC has members. And you have a managing member, which you guys would have to iron out who that was. And why is it important? Because banks and other industries want to know who is what we call the beneficial owner. Who is that person that is getting benefit from the business? Okay. Any questions? That I don't want to, you guys stop me if we need to, okay? Profits and losses, again, are passed through the personal income taxes. So downside, it's a little bit more complex, right? And a little bit more costly to start out this way. It's not earth-shattering, but it is a little bit more. And the one thing that people don't think about either that I found is that all income in an LLC is subject to payroll or self-employment taxes. It's very important to know, right? Because you could end up. So I'm going to share a little story about an LLC. pretty decent family-owned business, mom, dad, sister, brother. They had such a phenomenal partnership agreement with an LLC because that you can do both of them at the same time, that within their agreement, if one person died, you couldn't sell it outside, it had to go to the next 3 members, right? So mom died first. Dad and sister died within 2 weeks of each other, which left son. Son owns all of it because that's what the partnership agreement said, right? But then there was a family member who said, I have some rights in this because my family member was X. So they go through litigation, which is the downside, but it still came out. Son owns 100%. So that's where the partnership agreement is vitally important. And you guys have to hash it out. All right, subchapter S or S corporation. This one was very popular before LLCs came into play, and to some extent it still is. So here you can have a president, vice president, treasurer, and you each are shareholders. So the difference between an S corporation and a big corporation, we'll call it, is you can only sell 100 shares. That's the maximum you can have. Okay, so if you go into it as 2 people, it's 50. I'll let you do your thing. And so you are protected from the debts of the corporation and any liability that comes around, like judgments, and we'll talk a little bit about what a judgment is and why it's not a good thing. Access to funding. So LLCs get funding, S corps get funding. Funding, I mean, you go to a bank and you need money, or you go to a business broker and you need money. It lends a little bit more credibility when the word corporation is back at the end of it, because it seems to give people a feel like, oh, they're really serious about their business. They formed a corporation. Everybody is serious about opening their business, right? But it's just the name and what ties to it. All right. So myself and Quint own our S Corp, and I decide I want to go live in Bora Bora. So Quint and I have this agreement that I can sell to anybody. So I can transfer my 50 shares to somebody without triggering additional taxation. So that's a plus. Again, you can put it on your personal tax return, so that's what you're taxed at, that level. Much increased complexity, and what I find here is that every business has to register with a state, okay? So the fees that you pay are a little bit more for corporations. Setting up a corporation is a little bit more expensive, complex, as far as regulations are concerned. The IRS pays closer scrutiny because any what we call dividends that is paid to a shareholder can be looked at as a dividend or a salary. So that's the part where it gets tricky, okay? So everybody thinks they can do, yeah?
Before you move on, we have
Yep,
a question in chat.
sure.
Melissa, your fan, asked, would a nonprofit be an LLC?
A nonprofit is a corporation.
A nonprofit is a
Yeah,
corporation.
that's one of the other 6 that I didn't tell you about.
Okay.
Okay, so thanks, Melissa. So there is a other team out there, I like to call them, that you need to have when you're opening a business, and people don't think they do. But here's a team. You must have a banker, a CPA or accountant, and an attorney. So why a banker? Well, you don't want the relationship you have with a banker to be you going through the drive-through and waving, or you're chatting online. because a banker can help you through the life of your business. They can look at things that as your business starts to grow, do you need money management options? Do you need wire transfer options? You know, there's a whole host of what we call treasury management products that you can use. So you need a banker. You also need a banker, which hopefully sooner rather than later, you need a line of credit. Now, I know my Gen Zers, I know you don't like debt, right? Parents had issues in 2008 recession. It's still hot in your mind. You don't like that. Here's one thing all of these boys have in common. They use somebody else's money to make money. So I'm not telling you to go into debt that you can't pay back, but I'm telling you to use it wisely, to grow. Because there is going to come a point where you're going to need to grow your business. Got somebody else?
Yeah, we got a couple people.
Okay. Ooh. All right. So the CPA or accountant, big distinction between a CPA and a bookkeeper. So a bookkeeper is somebody you hire that they put all your numbers in to a QuickBooks program or some other kind of program, right? CPA is the one that you want to meet with first. That person is going to help you to set up your business from a structuring, taxation perspective. They know best, right? Now, you can hire a bookkeeper, or I was the bookkeeper in one of my businesses because you start, you know, you kind of do everything. That person should be sending those reports from QuickBooks or wherever to your CPA every month for the CPA to review. You should be meeting with your CPA at least twice a year, because what you want to talk about is where is the business now and where is it headed? All of us don't like to pay taxes, right? We like to save on taxes, and it's a double-sided sword. The reason I say that is because when you go to a bank, if you have written off every single piece of profit that you have, it shows you have no income. Even though we know, obviously your business is still going around and you have income, but you have to prove it. The only way you can prove it is by your tax return. Okay? So meeting with a CPA is vitally, vitally important. So on the topic of bookkeepers, I will tell you that if you do end up hiring a bookkeeper, you don't abdicate your responsibility. What do I mean by that? I could write a book on how many companies I have seen where the bookkeeper stole money and they didn't know. I'll give you an example. I had a physician making money, going along, bookkeeper had been with her 5 years. Trust level is high, right? You don't even think about it. Well, she realized that she couldn't pay her child's tuition. She's like, this is crazy, you're not working. Oh, sorry, I'm not on camera, am I? So I'm working all these hours, I'm doing all this stuff. Oh, what do you mean I can't pay my child's tuition? When she went back and reviewed her books, literally, her bookkeeper had stole over $2 million. A little at a time. So I say to you, you need to know what's in your books as well, right? You may not be doing the hands-on, but you need to know and you need to look. Okay, attorney, the ones that we love to hate. An attorney you need is one that specializes in small businesses and startups. So a corporate attorney, you're not going to go out and get somebody that deals with other stuff. So that is where you want them to focus. Interview them, right? For me, authenticity was probably one of the most important things. I want to know that you really care about my business. How am I going to find that out? By interviewing you, just like you guys do with your end client. Things to look out for is you want to discuss their fee structure. How do they charge you? What do they charge you for? Is there a flat fee out there that they can give you? And if you sign up with them today with whatever fee, how much or how many other fees potentially could be charged to you within that first year? So it's vitally important that you look at that too. And they can also help you with creating partnership agreement, right? And however else you want to do it. Right? So if you want to do it on your own, you can, right? It's not hard. You know, I can walk you through it if it's just you. So the first place you go is the Secretary of State, whether it's Georgia, Florida, I don't care where. And you're gonna look, is my name Omega franchise being used? I'm gonna search, right? Because you can search by name. Not being used, you file what's called a fictitious name filing. Once you file that, then you go to the irs.gov and you are going to apply for an employee identification number, otherwise known as an EIN. You're going to need your information and all the other beneficial owners' information. You're going to tell the IRS, I want to start an LLC. And it's very intuitive. It's going to ask you questions. What type of business? And it gives you some things to check off. Are you going to have tobacco, guns, alcohol? You know, questions like that. And then once you finish, you want to request a PDF, right? Because it's emailed to you instantly. You don't want to get it in paper. Why? Because that EIN number is now essentially your company's social security number. Okay? And it's going to be tied with that company. So you're going to go back to the Secretary of State. You're going to enter in all your information because no, I'm telling the state, I'm going to be running a business in your state. Here are who the beneficial owners are. Here's our EIN number. And that's how you start it. Pretty easy, right? Again, I'd be happy to help any of you. And you guys will have my email at the end. So we'll look at that. I think I have one paper over here I need. So now we're going to talk about the tools. So every business, I apologize, needs a business plan, especially if you are looking for money from, let's say, the Small Business Administration, the SBA, they want to see a business plan. So look, business plans can be very daunting. How many of you have ever filled out a business plan? You want to talk about it?
Honestly, I'm in my first business class, and like last week we started to fill it out.
Okay.
I'm a little familiar.
Yeah, it's big, it's long. So this one is what they call a one-pager. And why is it good? Because all the information on it, you need to know before you start the business, right? So there are very important things on there. And I know Quint put it in the resources, so you can take a look at it. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. You know, he spoke about the business models, but there are things that you need to look at. Who's your competition? What makes you special? Why is somebody gonna part with their hard-earned money to you, right? So things like that you need to look at. You need to look at, okay, the strengths and weaknesses of you and your partners. I know, don't look like somebody that could have owned a gym, but I did, right? And I was the mouthpiece for the gym. My partner would stand in the corner and cry if she had to come up front, right? So we knew basically whose role was what, okay? So look at those strengths and weaknesses as you go through. One of the things that's on here that people typically say, well, why are you asking me this question of an exit strategy? You need it, right? So that goes back to the partnership agreement. Are you an innie or outie? Meaning, does it go to the people inside or can somebody from outside come in? Gonna pass it down to family? You know, all those things that, yes, you need to start thinking about when you start that business. So you structure it properly. Growth, you know, what are you expecting? Year 1, year 3, year 5? How about your goal that you want to achieve ultimately? Let's see what else is on here. Target markets, you guys know all about that. Your marketing strategy, because business isn't gonna just walk in and say, I'm here, I want to do something. They need to know that you're there, what you offer, how you offer it, how much it costs, all of that stuff. And let's see. Just trying to think if there's anything else on here. Your key performance indicators, your 90-day critical items that you need. And so literally, we're at the end. So we spoke about the different types of business entities, right? Sole prop, partnership, LLC, S corp. We spoke about the other team that you need, a banker, a CPA, an accountant, the tool, that is a phenomenal tool, and how you do it on your own. So I started out talking about their 10 main errors that companies make before they open up, and I'm gonna read them to you. So not having a business plan is number 1. Number 2 is not having a marketing plan. Number 3, which is always my issue, is impatience. So Rome was not built in a day, and it's gonna take you time. Overspending, also my evil. So thank God my partner at the time, she was, you know, very controlling of money, so that worked out really well. This one is underpricing. So we think we have to be the cheapest to go into the market to compete with the big guys, and you do not. If you believe in the product or service that you're selling, price it accordingly, okay? Not forming the right business entity. So I end up in a partnership when I really should have been in an LLC, or however you want to mix that. Thinking that you don't need insurance. One thing I forgot to mention is that your banker, today most banks offer insurance, but you need it. So one night I'm in my gym and I hear, oh, and I look and there's a lady falling in slow motion, right? Because I can see my dollars leaving my pocket, falling in slow motion with the machine coming on top of her. Thank God for insurance, right? That's why you need it. It's something you pay for and you're like, can we just cut back on that? That's like too much money. Don't cut back. Please, if you don't remember anything else, don't cut back. Not having a written partnership agreement, right? Not protecting your intellectual property. Big, 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 big. That's where your attorney comes in to help you. And thinking you can do it all by yourself. Because you'll be doing a lot of other things all by yourself, but there are people out there that can help you with some of it. So what questions do you guys have for me? I know I ran through it at record-breaking speed.
I will also say, so there's the business model deliverable that we have. This is a more advanced version of that. So if you fill this out, you'll be good to go for that one. That one's also, it's like a lesser form of this one. That one's more theoretical. This one's like more if you're actually going to be building it.
Yeah.
So it's just gonna be on the website.
Yeah.
No, it's just gonna be on the website.
It already is.
Awesome.
Yes.
So like in the business model that I have, there's different categories.
Let me take a, yeah. All right. So I would say looking at what you would call your SWOT is probably one of the most important ones. So the strengths that you have within the company and the weaknesses, you know, be honest. I mean, if you're not honest, you're not gonna be able to move forward properly. Then you really want to look at, if we did this, would it increase our profit by X? Your opportunities, you're looking at your competition, what are they doing, how are they pricing stuff? And you're also looking at them from a threat perspective. So again, I'll go back to my gym. People thought that because I worked with the pizza shop down the street, it would be a threat. But here's what I figured out or learned, is that pizza shops are busiest on Friday and Saturday night. And they literally take somebody off the line to make boxes, right? To put that hot pizza in. That person could be chopping stuff, doing stuff. So I went in and I said, hey, if I can send or myself come in here and make some boxes for you, can I put my flyer on your pizza box? It was yeah, right? So you never know where partnerships come from. But look at that SWOT, and then obviously your financial goals are very important. You want to be realistic, do your market research, see what's out there, you know, what's the going rate, but that has to be pretty tight. It can't be like, I assume we're going to do 1.5 million. Why do you assume that? What's going on there? And of course, the unique proposition, why you, financial strategies. So timeliness and accuracy of your financial statements are important. Again, from a funding perspective, from a tax liability perspective. And when I say that, let me stop right here. So you have to file your taxes. You don't file your taxes, the IRS sends the bank a letter and they say they owe us $36,000 in taxes. The bank has to hold every dollar you have in your account, every dollar. And there's not one thing I can do for you or they can do for you, because until we get the letter from the IRS stating that it's okay to release those funds, they don't care that you have payroll to pay. They don't care that you have a lease or, you know, electricity to pay. They don't care. They want their money. So you have to call them and start begging and pleading for a plan. So do your taxes. Let's see. Operations are important as well, I would say, because you need to know how everything is going to work. And what are your KPIs? What are your key? Yeah. What are they? You know, how are you going to know that you're doing a good job?
Those are key performance
indicators, right? How are they going to know what you're doing? Or how are you going to know that you're doing well?
We had two questions from online.
Okay.
The first of them comes from Lena. And,
hi, Lena.
They asked how much details of the business plan is required for the competition. I think just walking through
Just,
what that competition is.
Okay. So you put that business model out there. So how much is required for yours? I know you said it was a slimmed down version, but I thought it had a lot of it on there. To be honest, I don't have your,
It's okay.
I just have your business model here, not the other one.
You're good. So
Okay.
for the competition, we just want to know the market that you're going into and understand that you know that you're not the only player. What is unique about your offering as opposed to theirs? A lot of the same things you're talking
Okay.
about for your business model. And then we also had Tori who said,
Hi, Tori.
on the 10 a.m. meeting, there was someone who said that we would be asked, where are you getting the money from? Who was paying? That was Josh Lynn, by the way. Do you have any advice on how we should find people who's willing to give us money? And do these people who are paying need to be a customer or an investor?
Investor first off, right? And you want to take a look at, I mean, crowdfunding is awesome these days if you're starting from scratch, but it's not a be all end all, right? So looking at, if you form that S Corp, who could you sell some shares to? You know, put some money in the game. like Shark Tank. I'll sell you 20% of my business if you give me 1.5 million. Right? So look at those avenues. And a bank is not, how can I put this? A bank will lend you money, especially if the SBA is going to insure a portion of it. But to get an SBA loan, it is forever and 2 days. So you have to think about that. Oops. She was gonna take a picture.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's on the website. I apologize.
That's okay. So you have to think about that before you get into it. So you can't go and say, okay, I want to do an SBA loan and I want to open in 30 days. You need to be thinking longer term.
All right. We also had Jack who asked if they could unmute.
Oh, hi, Jack. Yeah, absolutely.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm asking, how do we predict that our business model is profitable, or how can we persuade like an investor that we're providing a business model that is sustainable for longer use and predict how much we'll be making per year?
The best way to do that is to look at your competition. Who is your closest competition? Figure out what unique thing you bring that that competitor doesn't have. And that's how you figure out, I believe based on the market I'm in, this is how much I'm gonna make. So you have to prove to that investor that you've done all your homework. That's basically it.
Go ahead.
So how do you determine when going from a sole proprietorship to a partnership is pretty simple.
Mhm.
When do you choose whether or not you're going to do a partnership or an LLC or a corporation?
So I would say to you today, if I were going into business, which I am in business today for myself, but if I were going into a new business, I would choose an LLC or an S Corp. LLC, if it's just me and I know that I can do what I need to do. S Corp is if I have to bring in more people and the likelihood of me wanting to sell shares.
And when you open a S corp, is that a private company? When you say shares, you don't mean like stock.
I do mean like stock. Because everybody in there is a shareholder.
So if you open an S corp, it's automatically on the market.
No, you would have to go out, and that's like, years down the road. But you could potentially, by that point, you would have migrated from an S Corp to what's called a C Corp. And I didn't touch on that, but you know, that's where the big guys live.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Plus they have their nonprofit arm so they can write off.
Thank you so much. If we don't have any questions, I do want to say, if you guys want more specifics on the Lean UX Canvas, which is kind of like the dumbed down version of this, we go through that in the ideation workshop. So feel free to tune on that one. That's like the third thing we do. So you don't have to be there for the whole thing, or if you want to watch it on YouTube later, feel free to do so. But what Lisa's been talking about today is like far above what we expect. And so if you go through this whole process that she's outlined, I think the judges will be really impressed about like how much actual thought you put into this, because this is what makes it real. You know, throughout school, we go through these like kind of fantasy trips about like, oh yeah, I make this really sleek product and I don't need to worry about manufacturing. I'm going to sell it to everyone. But like, this is the kind of thing that really shows that you put into thought to how you're going to implement this. And that's very impressive for someone, especially when a lot of the other teams aren't doing that. So I super recommend it if you get the chance.
And my email is also up, and I encourage you to email me. I'd be happy to help in any way I can or answer any questions you might have. Okay.
All right, well, thank you so much,
Thank
Lisa.
you.
Great job. Thank you, everybody. For
Especially on this rainy Saturday, right?
Yeah, for real.
Thanks.
You're very welcome. All right, online. We'll see you guys later. Bye. Tori, her email will be in the slide deck, but let me just copy and paste it for you. Oh, I can't. All right, Tori, that one should work. It's right above your reply to me. You guys are very welcome. We'll see you later. Where will the session be posted? 2 places. So it'll be on YouTube and it will be on the sessions website. If you go to startup or scatstartup.com/sessions, all of the replays will be there. Probably at the end of the day that the session has been hosted, Jack, if you want to replay or watch any of the other ones. You're very welcome. And Jeannie, you were able to make it. Fantastic. I'm going to shut down the Zoom now. I'll see everybody later. Bye.
Yay, bye.